Ladies and gentlemen, if there is one story that the whole of human history was collectively holding its breath for, it is the arrival of the Redeemer. After 4 centuries of theological silence, the Jewish people were anxiously anticipating a powerful Messiah, a formidable military general who would tear apart the chains of the Roman Empire, ascend the throne in Jerusalem, and restore the glorious kingdom of David. They were waiting for a Jewish Caesar, but history, and especially God, often delights in playing a profoundly ironic joke on human expectations. Instead of sending a prince cradled in silks within a splendid palace, he sent a sweaty infant born amidst the damp straw and the odor of manure. Let's strip away the sentimentality from the prologue of Jesus' life and reveal the majesty carefully hidden within utter absurdity and humility. The profound irony, the unlikely pair in the promised place, a nobody village, Nazareth. While all religious centers of power were focused on brilliant Jerusalem, this grand drama began in a village called Nazareth, a name that barely had the weight to be stamped onto a historical map. Nazareth, the place people scornfully said, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" This is the first choice of theological satire. The King of the universe chose a place that no one gave a damn about. The mother, the emblem of obedience, Mary. Mary, a simple country girl, likely only 15 or 16 years old. Her life was perfectly mapped out. Simple, labor-filled, and compliant with the law. And then the angel Gabriel appears. Imagine the shock and the sudden disruption of the plan. A woman who had not known a man is told she will conceive and give birth to the Son of God. This was not just a biological miracle. It was a terrifying political event in a rigid Jewish society. She faced the risk of public shame, stoning, and the ruin of her honor. Yet, Mary responded with astonishing submission. "Behold, I am the servant of the Lord. Let it be done to me according to your word." This absolute obedience, which gambled her reputation and her life, was the very doorway through which the divine entered history. The Father, righteousness and sacrifice. Joseph. Joseph was not chosen to be the biological father, but was selected to be the guardian of the Messiah. When he learned of Mary's pregnancy, Joseph was a righteous man. According to the law, he could publicly denounce her and allow her to suffer the punishment. But his righteousness was expressed through mercy. He decided to divorce her quietly to preserve her dignity. His choice was halted only by a dream, a direct intervention. This story underscores a difficult truth. Jesus' mission did not require an earthly father, but it absolutely required a courageous man willing to face the worst gossip of a small town. Joseph is the silent hero, the one who sacrificed personal reputation to shelter the divine beginning, the Bethlehem scandal, where God chose. The decree from Caesar and the misdirection of power to continue the satirical play, God utilized the very arrogance of the Roman Empire. Emperor Caesar Augustus decreed a universal census. His goal? To collect more taxes, to consolidate power. This utterly bureaucratic order forced Joseph and Mary to travel to Bethlehem, the city of David, to register. The irony here is palpable. The most powerful man in the world, completely oblivious, was serving the prophecy regarding a coming king who would overthrow his empire forever. The manger, the rejection of earthly power. Upon arriving in Bethlehem, there was no room for them in the inn. This is a detail of profound symbolism. The host of the universe was denied lodging by society. He was born in a manger, an animal feeding trough, not in a hospital, not in a tavern, but in the dampest, smelliest place available. If the Messiah had to take on human flesh, he chose the lowest possible status from the very first moment. He was not born into opulence only to renounce it. He was born into destitution to prove that God's power requires no aid from material wealth or worldly kingship. The unlikely witnesses, shepherds, and magi shepherds. This was the marginalized class, scorned by religious elites because their profession kept them perpetually unclean according to the law. Yet, they were the first to receive the angelic announcement. The message is clear. Good news is not for the high and mighty, but for the humble and despised, magi, astrologers, foreigners from the East, following a star. They represent the quest for truth by all humanity, not just Israel. They brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh, gifts that simultaneously honored a king, a deity, and foreshadowed a tragic death. King Herod and the historical refuge. The fear of true power, Jesus' birth provoked the first nonviolent confrontation, Herod the Great versus the child of Bethlehem. Herod, a Roman puppet king, was infamous for his paranoia and cruelty. When he heard of a newly born King of the Jews, he was not happy. He trembled. The satire lies in this. An infant possessed enough power to threaten the entire regime held by a notorious tyrant. Herod pretended to wish to worship, but his real aim was assassination. When the Magi failed to return, Herod acted with one of the most monstrous deeds in history, the slaughter of the innocents, massacre of all male children under 2 in Bethlehem. Jesus becomes a refugee. Again, the irony peaks. The Savior of humanity had to flee the threat posed by one insignificant man. The Holy Family had to escape to Egypt, becoming refugees. Jesus, the King of Israel, had to seek asylum in the very land that had once enslaved his people. This detail shows that Jesus not only identified with the poor, but also with the persecuted and the stateless. The silent years in Nazareth 1. The divine in the carpentry shop. After Herod's death, the family returned to Nazareth. And here lies one of the most mysterious, yet profound, periods. Nearly 18 years of absolute silence. Ponder this. What was the God of the universe, the limitless creator, doing for almost 2 decades? He was engaging in manual labor. He was a carpenter, tekton. He cut, planed, and shaped wood. He learned to live under Roman rule, learned Aramaic, studied the law in the synagogue, and learned the meaning of a day's honest sweat. Jesus' greatness wasn't that he was shielded from the ordinary life, but that he sanctified the ordinary life by his presence. The Savior chose slow maturation over a sudden spectacular debut, teaching us the value of work, patience, and normalcy. The brief reveal. The temple at age 12 only once was the silence broken. When Jesus was 12, the family traveled to Jerusalem for Passover. In the temple, he sat among the teachers, listening and asking questions. They were astonished, not because he could recite the Scriptures, but because his understanding and answers surpassed those of a mere 12-year-old. When his worried parents finally found him, his answer defined his entire later mission. "Why were you looking for me? Did you not know that I must be in my Father's house?" This was the period to childhood. Jesus declared his divine identity long before his public ministry began. It was a promise, a dazzling flash of light, before he returned to the tools and the woodshop to await the appointed time.